Faye, anybody out there? Yoo-hoo.
Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
I think we're starting.
Yeah, I think we're starting too.
Oh, it's already started?
We've started.
Oh,
We've
wow.
started.
We started.
Goodness, sorry, that was my fault.
Awesome. Hi, well, welcome to everybody joining on Facebook and YouTube and just Facebook and YouTube, I think. Welcome to Independent Shakespeare Company's final summer event, Making the Magic of the Festival. I'm Carolina Xique, marketing assistant at ISC and producer and host of ISC's Art Break. And here I have today is Melissa and David, founders of ISC, and Lorenzo Gonzalez, a past ISC Ensemble member.
I'm not considered a founding member or
ex-ISC member. I'm sorry, Lorenzo. We're supposed to have a conversation before this.
So I'm just a flounder.
Totally awkward. I would say you're a founding and current member.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's true. That's very accurate.
Yeah, so I haven't been to a festival, as we all know. I'm a new face to ISC. I know. I've lived in Los Angeles my whole life, but I have seen lots of photos via COVID of the grand sets and the beautiful costumes. And so we just thought it would be a really cool idea today to, ask questions about how ISC puts it all together, what it looked like before, and how it got to where it is now, where you're servicing thousands of Angelinos across LA, greater LA area. So yeah, would you guys like to introduce yourselves a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Melissa. I'm artistic director of Independent Shakespeare Company. I'm married to David, who's displaying beautiful COVID hair. We have COVID hair in this household. And David and I founded the company in what year?
1964.
1964. David. What?
It was 2000. No, it was in 1998.
And so we started in New York, and then we came out here, and Lorenzo's been doing shows with ISC since we got to LA. So he is. Lorenzo and I go much further back. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But so, Lorenzo, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, my name's Lorenzo Gonzalez, and yes, I guess I'll what else do I need to say?
Where are you now? Where are you coming from now?
Oh, right now I am in Boulder, Colorado, where for the past 10 years I've been the chair of the MFA in Theater Contemporary Performance at Naropa University. Sadly, the MFA program has closed this year, but I'm currently on sabbatical. So, and looking into going back to the old country, to LA. So yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to having you back, Lorenzo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to being back.
It's nice to meet you, Lorenzo.
Oh, thank you, Carolina. It's nice to meet you too. And what else? And then I guess I get to clear up why Melissa and I know each other for longer is because we went to college together. I was going to say high school, but
even college is pushing it, Lorenzo. Because I'm pretty sure it was graduate school.
It was graduate school.
Even older than college.
Yeah, graduate school, and so we've been doing we've been doing theater together since 1989.
That's amazing to think.
Back in the 80s.
Back in the 80s, man. That's crazy. Crazy. Maybe.
Thank you guys for joining me today. We also have some ISC favorites and some ISC backstage kind of folks that you don't really know, including Sanford Robbins, who taught Melissa and Lorenzo. We have Natalie Morales, who has been historically set designer at ISC. We also have Garry. Sorry, I'm pulling up last names.
Garry Lennon.
Garry Lennon, who has been ISC costume designer, and we have Erwin Tuazon, Tuazon, who has also been in ISC shows. So you'll see their videos throughout this live stream as we go on. But first, let's start with Sanford's video. He has great stuff to say about ISC, and he's seen their growth throughout the years.
Yeah, so Sandy, just quick before we start that, Sandy was, as Lorenzo says, was our teacher back in the 80s, late 80s, very, very late.
Very late 80s, yeah.
And he came out, and he's directed out here a few times, and he was actually supposed to direct King Lear this past summer, back when we were going to be doing King Lear and As You Like It. Somebody in the chat I saw just pointed out tonight this would have been closing weekend. No, next weekend we're closing weekend, yeah. So we would have already done all the shows. So it was great to think about Sandy coming back. So hopefully he'll be able to come back next summer and direct. So I'm going to try screen sharing now, Carolina, this video. And I hope I do all right.
What was I going to do in King Lear? Sandy was going to direct. What was I going to do?
Lorenzo, we didn't get that far because you remember it was about in March when we knew everything was going to be canceled.
I know what David had me pegged for.
I think you were going to be one of Gloucester's eyes.
The Herald or something like that.
Carolina, I'm going to screen sharing, or it's just never going to stop between those two.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, so let's see if I can make
Let's watch Sandy.
Sandy.
Hi, I'm Sandy Robbins, and I'm a big fan of the Independent Shakespeare Company. I have had the privilege of directing at many of the major theaters across America, and there's none that I like working at, that I love working at, any more than I do at the Independent Shakespeare Company. There's a lot of reasons for this. The first is the audience. It is the most diverse audience in America, I'm quite sure. And diverse in every way. People of all ages, of all ethnicities, of just every kind of human being you could imagine is there. Sometimes it's their first Shakespeare, sometimes they're experts in Shakespeare's work. And they're all one, glued to the stage, amidst barking dogs, every kind of possible distraction. They don't get distracted because the quality of the acting in that company, which is the second reason that I love that place and love working with them. I've had the privilege of co-directing 2 productions with the ISC, As You Like It and The Winter's Tale. And in each case, I left with my heart full with understandings of the plays that I don't think I ever would have had by those actors, those extraordinary actors who simultaneously respect the writing and the verse and make it for now, make it for our time, for our consciousness, for speaking to what we're concerned about. Anyhow, as you can probably tell, I'm an unabashed fan, and I could not be prouder of having had the opportunity to work with that company.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah,
Oh, Sandy.
Sandy, he always makes us feel so good about ourselves.
So what kind of shows did Sandy work on?
I'm sorry?
Which shows did he work on? Do you know?
We did As You Like It, which was one of, we actually did in Barnesville Park before we moved to Griffith Park. And The Winter's Tale was he did in Griffith Park after we'd moved over there. And he's also fielded many late night panicked phone calls from me as I ask him for advice. Or I often will say, hey, because he's directed, I think, every Shakespeare play except King Lear. I think he said he had not directed that one yet, right?
Yeah.
So he was super excited.
Who directed King Lear when we did it? Didn't
And
he?
so I kept, Jewel directed it when we did it at school.
Oh.
So I often will call him and say, hey, this scene is so tricky. What do you do when you direct this play? And then I like take furious notes. And then I come in the next day and say, hey, how about we try this? And it's always a great idea. So it's so wonderful to hear from Sandy that way.
Yeah, and that seems like, you know, I even though I haven't been with ISC, I've been in other productions, and usually you get to that point where you hit the wall, and it's always nice to call on folks, especially folks that know you really well, that know your production. So he seems like a really great resource for that.
He's great. He's one of my big mentors in my life, and a huge fan of David. In fact, David did not go to school with me and Lorenzo, but one day they were doing an alumni day, and Sandy had a bunch of us come down to talk to the students. And he had David come down too and talk to the students as though David were an alumni.
Did you go along with it, David?
Yeah, I was. They made me come and get up on stage and give advice. Very facetious, of course. So I don't think anyone took it.
Well, maybe for the best.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's the thing about Sandy is that Sandy is really, you know, an extraordinary theater person, and it's not. He really acknowledges everybody who's in the theater, and one thing, like for example, working with Sandy is that if you're sitting in the audience, if you're sitting watching the rehearsal, he'll turn around and say, "Well, what do you guys think? Does anybody have any ideas?" And he'll try any ideas of anybody, you know, that anybody thinks or the suggestions. And so he's always, you know, in that sense, he for him, the theater is one, and it's not like this company or that company or this school or that school. It's all, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
a very collaborative process.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think he's I think he's the only outside director that's worked at ISC that I haven't ended up in a fight with.
Oh. Which says more about David than the wonderful directors that we've worked with.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
No, our dog is growling at David for his terrible humor.
Yeah, but I mean, we have a very sort of idiosyncratic approach to direction in the company that kind of grew out of the way the company was formed when we first started it in New York in 1998.
He's getting older and older the longer this is.
1984.
1912.
I won't even tell you what year I was born. I'm not going
No,
to.
thank you. Thank you very much for that, Carolina.
But we started it, you know, in response to having seen a production of the Globe that really kind of blew us away in London, and thinking about what it was that made that an immediate process for the audience. And you know, there was, you know, that it wasn't one of these big sort of conceptual directorial productions. It was really very much ensemble based, and we felt it was really sort of harnessing, you know, what we felt the spirit of, you know, Shakespeare's original company would have been. So we were thinking about how we would put that into practice. So, you know, our first few productions, we tried to work like Shakespeare's company. So, you know, Shakespeare didn't have a director per se. So we tried to work as an ensemble and direct ourselves, which, you know, had sort of
Has its drawbacks.
yeah, but on the other hand, it did create a language where we were really trying to get the actors to participate, and we wanted to, you know, everybody on stage to feel that it was their work that was on stage, not just trying to fulfill the vision of one person. And that's a philosophy that stayed with the company up to this day. And as a consequence of that philosophy, which we sometimes sort of forget that that's one of the building blocks of the company, but it really is ingrained in everything we do. And that's why it is harder for other outside directors to come in who are used to the regional theatre model of working. Yeah. And, you know,
It can be, I would say, like, fundamentally, we don't believe that an actor's job is to fulfill the vision of a director. We believe that directors and actors work on a text and come to a cohesive sense of what the play is about and present that to an audience. And I think for a lot of people who are taught in directing, like directing programs, there's the sense that the director's vision is what's preeminent in the play. And that's not a bad way of working. It's just not how we work. So when people who are expecting it to be that way in a very short rehearsal process, it can be very, it's difficult kind of to get, like, you know what I mean, to shift kind of what you think your job is.
Yeah.
If that kind of explains. I think
and
that's
so Sandy comes in and he fits in really well with that because he doesn't really bring a whole lot of ego to it.
And we learned that.
Well, but it extends also. It extends also. I would say it extends also, like, you know, to the set and to the costumes and to the entire vision of the production, which I think we've developed. It also like it's not an easy thing to do, but over the years, we have developed the way of making it work. So, like what David says, it is hard for sometimes when people come in and all of a sudden, wait a second, isn't there a hard line here? And it's like, no.
Well, I think what's interesting, and I think what is really helpful in that way, to work more as an ensemble than to have really hard relationship between like director, actor, designer, is that it's Shakespeare. And so a lot of it is also relating to what's going on in Los Angeles, relating to what's going on in the world. And so kind of making it more accessible to folks. And by doing that, having those conversations with your actors, that's like, hey, what do you think is going to be right for the folks that live here? What do you think is going to be right for you as an actor, especially because, you know, Shakespeare for sure is universal, but it might be different for every actor. Like, this might feel better for me to say this here, or maybe we should, I would like to wear this kind of costume, especially, you know, actors of different races too, like what they feel is most truthful for them and for the people that live.
Yeah, and as part of the audition process, something that's very important to us is we try, I mean, everybody, like Melissa likes to say, everyone's sort of varying degrees of adequate in terms of their, you know, doing their monologues and stuff. But what's really important is the little bit of conversation that we try to have with everyone. Because we want to find out, you know, how collaborative someone's going to be. And you know, when we're auditioning people and seeing whether they're going to be a good fit for the company, it's more important really for us to find someone that's going to be like-minded and willing to put themselves behind it, and also, you know, have an imagination that's, you know, that sparks and it's full of ideas and they're fun and easy to work with. And everyone can.
Well, I think it's just different. It's like, how much do you want to bring yourself to a project? You know, sometimes you don't really want to you just want to kind of go in and do your work, and that's great. But we really do, like you're saying, Caroline, I think try to make sure that everyone has that chance to bring as much of themselves as possible to the stage. And that's what's really exciting for me, is when things start happening or scenes, and I never thought of the scene that way, or I never pictured it that way, right? And all of a sudden, like, the play is happening in ways I could never have imagined. And that's what's really joyful for me when I'm directing, is feeling that kind of creative exchange between all of the artists. That to me is a wonderful room. You know what I mean? So it is a little bit different, I would say.
And that's what's great about working with such a diverse company too, because we have such a variety of voices and experiences that, you know, it really can spark so many different kind of avenues.
I think so,
Yeah, definitely. So I guess that you were talking a little bit about this, David, but, you know, let's start at the beginning. So what was the first production like? I believe it was Henry V back in 1998.
There was. Here, Alpha. I think we have a picture somewhere. Let's see.
We do.
There we go. Henry V. There we are. Some of us. You're not in that picture, Lorenzo. I'm sorry.
Had a budget of $800.
Oh, really?
Which was spent on that flag.
So that was our whole set, was that flag. And then we had this box that rolled around the stage. And that's all the actors in the company. That was all of us. And it was $800 was our entire budget. And so this was back in New York. And what year was that?
64, 65.
Stop. 60. Stop it. And it was so cool
It was
because
1999.
and 1999. That's right. And what was really neat about that, it was this crazy space called the Present Company Theatorium on the Lower East Side. And the guy who ran it was named John Clancy, and he's this amazing artist. And he didn't want to charge theater companies much rent because he just wanted to have this place where everybody could take risks. And so we had this crazy idea that you would only give him a tiny percentage of your box office so that if nobody came, you didn't owe him any money. But as a result, he had to basically keep theater in there 24 hours a day or he couldn't pay his rent. So our performance time was 10 p.m. on Tuesday nights after a production of Pigoletto, which was Rigoletto starring a man in a pig suit.
Oh, wow.
So it was this it was so crazy. It was the most amazing thing. And they always went a little down late because it was Pigoletto, it was an opera. It was the whole opera. Only the guy was dressed up as a pig. And so we'd run in and we'd let our audience in, which was usually about 6 or 7 people, maybe 20 on a good night, and put all of our stuff up in front of them. And that actually became this kind of fundamental idea for us. It was okay if the audience saw us doing our work. So
he was upset that Hamlet didn't follow Pigoletto.
Well, yes, that would have been good if Hamlet followed Pigoletto.
Oh, Hamlet, Pigoletto.
Yeah. But so this is the theatorium. So that's the space down.
It's now beautiful luxury condos.
Oh, how terrible! That's ridiculous. Do we need more luxury condos?
Rich people need to live somewhere.
Do they? Sorry.
It looks
I'd say more art, less luxury condos.
Yeah.
That's what
I bet they're very cheap right now.
So that was in New York. And then what happened was I got pregnant and we lost our apartment right at the same time.
I'm the father.
David is the father.
Left that a little ambiguous, but
Did
I was wondering.
Okay. And so we had to move, and we decided to move to LA. And then that's how we kind of relocated everything over in Los Angeles. And Lorenzo who was living here. That's how we kind of got reconnected. And we did, he's Lorenzo, you can talk a little bit about, you were in plays the very start of our time here in LA.
Wow. Well, what was it? The first play, was it
we
the
remounted
Odyssey?
Henry V.
Yeah, we did Henry V. We remounted Henry V, and it was at the Odyssey. It was
we were sharing the set with Stephen Burkoff's.
with Stephen Burkoff. I Am Hamlet or something.
No, it was The Secret Love Life of Ophelia.
Oh, there you go.
And you knew Stephen Burkoff was there because everywhere around the theatre at eye level there were these sexual harassment disclaimers just so that Stephen Burkoff could see them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a reputation.
Okay.
Well, talking about backstage, he would come and like he would walk in and he would be standing sometimes backstage watching us do the show. And it was one of those where it was only, was it 10? It was 10 of us, so we were always on stage, and so it was nobody, pretty much there was no time backstage, and so he would come and he would hang out backstage. And
oh wow,
he was such an idol of mine when I was at drama school.
Then you saw those notices, and you knew you didn't want to take after him.
What he was going to work with. Maybe not so much.
So we did that at the Odyssey, and then pretty soon after that, we started. We found this, jumping forward a little bit, our first park space, which was Barnstable Park.
Now we went to we did the park. We did the park up in. Remember, we went to a park up in Laurel Canyon.
Oh yeah, that was the Xique Goldman Nature Reserve.
That was in Coldwater.
In Franklin Canyon Park.
Yeah.
But we were only there a weekend. But then we went to look at Barnstable Park.
There's Barnstable Park.
So we built this little, you can see we built the circular stage was built over the pond.
Yeah.
In a Frank Lloyd Wright house that's on the grounds of Barnstable Park.
And Erin Morgan built this amazing
So
circular
beautiful.
platform that would fit inside the pond. The pond was empty. And
that was one of actually the hardest stage platforms ever built because it was a complete.
Yeah, no, it was circular. I couldn't believe how he did it.
So was it already kind of like in an amphitheater? Like
Yeah, I think it was sort of because the lady that the place was designed for, Aileen Barnstall, was an actress, and she came out to LA in the teens, 19 teens, and they were going to start a theatre commune on that hill.
That's right.
So there were plans for a Frank Lloyd Wright theatre and housing for actors and stuff. And really, I think they built the main house, and she thought it looked like a Mayan tomb, so she didn't live in it. She only ever lived in the chauffeurs' quarters, and then eventually gave it to the city. So it never really sort of got fully realized. But I think the pond was designed to have a sort of an amphitheater kind of feeling, and that one day that they could cover it and have performances, and that never really happened until we were there. I might be creating my own Frank Lloyd Wright history here right now.
You may be, but that's okay.
So we did that, and we were very pleased with ourselves. And then the Frank Lloyd Wright sort of Historical Society found out about it, and they were horrified that we'd been allowed in there, and then we were building stuff on this incredible, it's now like a UNESCO, heritage site or something. So we were kicked out of there after that first year.
And we stayed in Barnstable Park, and we went across to the big lawn. So we went over here. So then we had these beautiful views of LA. But you can see it, like if you look at the lighting stand there, that was this halogen work light, just like what you would get at Home Depot. And that's how we lit all of our plays for a few years.
Well, you can see those lights also in the other one. You could see.
But in that picture, you can see the Hollywood sign. So, you'd stand on stage and look at the Hollywood sign, and you'd be acting and go, I've made it.
That's the dream. For so many people coming to Los Angeles
to do Shakespeare. And
so in those days also, it wasn't like you could see the whole Hollywood sign, but you would see it because they were repairing the letters, and they were every now and then you'd see a letter go up that somebody like Clint Eastwood paid for it to be repaired or something like that.
I heard that Barnstable had a bunch of different organizations running it. I heard that used to be a pain versus
Well, it was challenging because there was a lot of nonprofits. And so there was an art museum, there was the Hollyhock House, there was us. It's a Rex and Parks facility, but it was a Department of Cultural Affairs site. So there was just a lot of there were let's put it this way, a lot of opportunities for miscommunication between organizations. So that just would take, and whereas when we kind of outgrew that space and moved over to Griffith Park, and now it's a little bit easier because we're just with Rex and Parks.
We only deal with Rex and Parks, and they're amazing. They're such great partners. But in Barnstable Park, you were with the Department of Cultural Affairs folks were operating the theatre. But as soon as you came off the concrete and you put your feet on grass, then that technically was under the auspices of Rex and Parks. But because we were a theatre production, there was some kind of crossover. But then there were the Friends of Hollyhock House, Friends of Barnstable Park. There was the art gallery,
It was just and we were completely new to it, so also no one knew us. So it just was it was a lot of management. But in the end, when we went to Griffith Park, it worked out great because our space is so much bigger now too for more.
In those days, it was all open. Now it's all fenced. Huh?
I guess so. They
fenced everything. They actually we were for a while on that great lawn there, and then they had these plans to redo it, which would basically deal us out. So, but we hung on for a couple of years because we said, we'll go on the other side of the house, which was this slope or this sort of scrappy area that no one went near, and it had a wall in the middle of it. We built the stage over the wall, which was halfway down the hill.
It was crazy. It was crazy.
Look at it now, and I can't believe that we did it.
I can't believe we were allowed to build that stage, actually.
It's not good.
It was very tall.
Somebody came by once and asked to see a permit. We were like, what? Really? And the first stage we put up there, looked like it had been built by,
children. Let's just say with children who didn't know how to build.
Like,
but somebody built it. Was us. That's why we can say that.
Like the C team that got fired from building the pyramids,
Very, very.
Remember, this is 1964.
And it was 60s. So you could do things like that.
Very different back then.
Oh my
But
God.
this is a great segue into my next question, which is about the set design. So as we saw in that first picture in the theatrium, it's very different from the grand designs I've been seeing in all of these photos. So do you have any set design that was your favorite or the hardest to complete? Are there any memorable?
Yeah, I was looking at pictures just in preparation for this, and I think the set, David's gonna, our
I'm
phone.
sorry, my phone's going.
Okay. I'm going to show a picture now. Here it is. So this was a set for Taming of the Shrew, and
It's Spectrum. They wonder if we want to upgrade the wireless. Sorry.
and the first time we did Twelfth Night, and so this is a really beautiful set, and it looks so big and fabulous, doesn't it? And it was this one I was thinking about is one that I thought was really, really pretty. And you can kind of see that there's this crazy spiral staircase going up and then these long steps going down. And we had to, of course, stage ourselves to run all up and down it. And it was so incredibly exhausting to race around that set. But I do think it was really, really beautiful. And then the other set that I truly loved was this Measure for Measure set, which Lorenzo will remember because Lorenzo was in that show, as was David. And it's this one here. And so it was kind of, we put together, I put out this call on Facebook, like who's got old windows they're going to throw away, pieces of your fence or random objects that's in your backyard. And I drove all over Atwater and we collected all this stuff and we went to Habitat for Humanity and they have like a shop where you can go and buy building supplies, and we bought a bunch of stuff there and we put this whole set together, and I just thought it came out so beautifully. And you can't quite see in this picture, but if people walked right behind it, you could see them through the windows, and in the very middle were these blinds that you could raise up and pull down. So it was this really fun, and you could kind of have this idea of the beyond of the set. So
the seeing and the not seeing.
Well, we didn't have any set designers for the stuff at Barnstable. That was just like we would put up a curtain or just like put up a bunch of flats, and the only set designers were what color should we paint the flats this year? Well, we did blue last year. Let's make them purple.
Where are we going to hang the Henry curtain this year?
It's very, very bare bones theater.
It was very
much.
Which can still be super effective. And also, we are also grateful for what we have now.
I think we sort of found that, like, as the spaces got bigger, it felt like you needed more things to fill up the stage a little bit as the audiences got bigger. But, who knows what will happen, how much longer theaters will be closed. Because by the end of it, maybe we'll be back to doing, bare bones theater. And that would be okay, too. I feel like we could do that as well.
But it's that thing about like balancing, making sure that the set's also an actor in the show. That the setting is also one of the performers in the play, and the people can perform in it and use it as a almost like a living thing, instead of like just being something that you have to adjust to, or like maneuver, or and it's that idea of like, how can we make the set also be really integral to the story, or the different, represent the different spaces that it needs to become. I remember Lorenzo, and we did Richard III in Barnstable, and we were trying to figure out how to make the Tower of London, and we had this step stool. It was like an IKEA step stool that we were using as part of the set. And Lorenzo picked it up. He said, "What if wherever we are with this stool, it's the Tower of London?" And he like went here, and he was the tower, and he went there, and he was the tower. We still have that.
Inspiring. And I don't think we ever used the step stool, but we did have this kind of funny quilt. So can I bring up a picture of Lorenzo as Richard III? So this is the first time we did this.
Mind you, this is 1964.
Okay. That joke might get a little old by the end of the evening. I don't know. Okay, so this is Lorenzo as Richard III. And this is, so we're going to be in the picture there, but he's on this looks like a little chair, and we have this quilt. And that was basically the set, was pieces of furniture and this quilt that I made in my living room, actually. And we still have that. It appears later in this.
And that photo is from a performance in France.
That's right.
Theatre Antibia with the red hair.
Really?
And we took it to Europe for.
Oh, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Huh.
That was a beautiful experience, actually, to do that play there. I wonder if I have another photo of us doing Richard III. I'm going to put my glasses on while you guys.
But it's really cool to see that contrast, though. You see that the kind of, like we said, like bare bones theater, doing the stuff you got to do out of your living room versus, these really great sets that you, even so, like you were saying, Melissa, you're upcycling them. It's not anything that's going to waste necessarily. And it seems like a lot of the stuff you all use is stuff from other shows as well.
Oh, yeah. I think we're very frugal. Our goal is sort of always to spend way more on the artists and pay artists and spend as little as we can on other things, which is also something that can be frustrating for directors, because of course they want to envision a set or envision kind of this something, and then when we say, yes, but there is no budget for that, it's like, that can be disappointing, which I totally understand. But we do try to use.
Was it like last year? It was all the suitcases in Pericles.
Well, Pericles, which we did last year, we were doing a sustainability season, so we did a lot of we had a lot of environmental partners coming in and doing like teachings about sustainability. We started selling no more plastic water bottles. We found aluminum water bottles, and we were selling those instead. We were really encouraged. Anyway, but Pericles, we decided to do like almost entirely recycled. So the set was either I found things that were old that we had to purchase but had been used before, they weren't purpose-built, and then we recycled just everything from years past. And the costumes, I think we spent about $200 on for the whole season, because everything was stuff that we pulled. And Tom Blunt, who is the designer, he was just able to like take 3 costumes and make something completely different out of them. It was amazing. Yeah. So so we do try to continue to upcycle things.
Awesome. Well, I think it's a great time to bring in Natalie Morales, who has historically been set designer at ISC. So we're going to share her video right now.
Great. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Morales, and I'm a set designer for ISC's Summer Festivals. This would be my 5th year with this wonderful organization. In 2016, 17, and 18, I was actually more of an assistant to senior designer Caitlin Lainoff for her sets of Richard III, The Tempest, Measure for Measure, Two Gentlemen of Verona, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and Titus Andronicus. In 2019, I designed the unit set for 12th Night and Pericles, and scenically designed 12th Night. Of all of those, I think the most difficult sets were Richard III, because of the Victorian pattern wallpaper that I had to paint all over the set. That took a really long time. And also the unit set for Two Gentlemen of Verona and Measure for Measure. Mostly because that just was a whole lot of things to put together and paint. And you have to get through the nooks and crannies of everything. It took a really long time, especially out in the hot sun. It's a lot to work with. Every year I get to learn more and refine my craft more. I think the most rewarding set was the 2016 set, which was my first one, and it was used for Richard III and The Tempest. mostly because I learned what I was really getting into for the first time as far as my scenic career went and for the festival in general. And I got to experience how one set can transform so much for a completely different show. Just that was amazing to me, and I loved it so much. I've got to say my favorite sets so far were the 2017 sets for Measure again, and the unit set for 2019 12th Night and Pericles. The Measure one, as I mentioned, it had a lot of things coming together, so many objects connected together like a puzzle. And then the 12th Night Pericles set was the first one I designed myself for ISC, and so that brought on a whole other set of challenges, and I particularly enjoyed painting that back wall with a whole bunch of texture. As difficult as both those sets were, they were really rewarding for me. There are definitely a whole lot of moments that I can think of working for the festival they put a smile on my face, because working for the festival is amazing for me. A lot of them involve paint, I will say, because that is what I do. One time in 2018, I went to Home Depot to get the brightly colored paint colors for our Midsummer Night's Dream set. And a couple of customers were waiting for their paints, and they saw my colors and were wondering what I was going to use them for, because they were really nice, but they were just interestingly bright. And so they asked me what I was working on, and I told them, oh, these are going to be for the set pieces for the Independent Shakespeare Festival at Griffith Park. And their facial expressions just changed. They were completely excited, and they both told me that they go to this festival every single year for the past 10 years, and they were just really excited to meet somebody that works on it. Somebody else happened to overhear this conversation. They also mentioned that they also go to the festival every year. So they were wondering when it was going to start, because they wanted to attend already. And so I told them what day opening night was. Flash forward to opening night, I was walking up the grass to get a spot to see the show. And I see these people waving and trying to call my name. And when I turned around and saw them, it was these people that I saw at Home Depot. And they complimented me on how well the colors looked on the set. And they thanked me for telling them what day it started. So long story short, this is exactly why I work on the festival. I do what I can to be a part of this festival for the fans out there, and just for local Angelinos that want to go see theater. That's why I do it. It just excites me every single year.
Wow.
Aww.
That was really nice. Oh, how sweet.
I had no idea that happened, that she saw people, and that they then saw them on opening night. That's such an amazing story. Aww. And now, didn't we discover there was a connection between you and Natalie?
Myself and me and Natalie. I thought you were talking to Lorenzo. Yeah, and Natalie went to Cal State Long Beach with me while I was there. She was an MFA while I was, getting my BA down there. And I had heard of her name so many times, and I saw her picture. I was like, oh, I know her. And she was like, I know you. And we've never met, officially. So it was really nice. I always find it crazy how often I meet folks who have been going to this festival for so long. And it's always just random people I know on my Facebook, my friends and family are reaching out, and they're like, yeah, I go all the time. So it's really cool. But
was really a bit like that with her meeting people at Home Depot. There was one of the facility men that works at Water Crossing, where we have the studio. I think he came in to help fix the plumbing or something, and he was just asking what we do. And I said, well, we're a theater company. He said, oh, I've just got engaged, and I really want to take my fiance somewhere. I've never been to the theater before. And I was saying, oh, well, you have to bring her to come and see Midsummer Night's Dream. It's totally romantic. It's a beautiful evening. You're going to have a wonderful time. And so we're at the festival, we're doing the show, and I see them coming. I'm seeing him coming up the hill with his fiance, and it's like, it's not Midsummer Night's Dream, it's Titus Andronicus.
No! Don't bring someone
Go
to
back.
dated Titus.
That
Titus
is hilarious.
very bloody and not romantic. It's whatever the opposite of romantic is Titus Andronicus.
Is there the most deaths in a Shakespeare play?
Yes, and they're horrible. Like
Oh yeah, awful.
children get baked in a pie. I mean, it's just terrible.
And someone's tongue gets cut off.
Yes, it's
Yes.
really awful. And we did the play once, and I feel no need ever to relive living in that world of Titus Andronicus. As fun as it was so violent. It's not.
It was very sticky.
It's a lot of blood. Yeah, Titus.
You know, stickier than it is, you know, in the heat. So
That's right. And you know, it's interesting. We had to buy this. You can make, usually if you're doing kind of budget theater, you can make your own blood and you use like corn syrup and dish soap and you make this stuff. But we couldn't do that because it's outdoors and there's so many bugs.
yeah.
So we had to buy like the expensive blood that you buy. And we didn't put any of that in the budget. We just were thinking, and by the end, I think it was about $1,000 of blood. It was a lot. It cost so much because so much of it got squirted all over the stage every night.
Oh yeah.
It was crazy.
And
Anyway,
we were buying it from the same place that Westworld were
Oh, wow.
buying their blood. And I went in there to get some, and they bought it all out. There was none left because they'd started.
Westworld bought all the blood.
Westworld bought all our blood.
Well, I guess that's good to know we're using the Westworld
Yeah.
blood. I don't know.
It's good enough for them.
It's good enough for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Great. So to kind of to backtrack on what was different about your first couple of seasons that, well, I mean, it looks like there's a lot of difference, but like what's the difference from the first couple seasons compared to the later seasons as far as production process?
Oh, that's a great question.
I think we do a lot more forward planning now. I mean, on a good year, we have production meetings a couple of months before we start. Sometimes we're like, you know, it depends because we can be, you know, because now we have an indoor space, we can be just, you know, knee deep in one production after another, and you kind of lose sight of what you're doing a little bit. So your pre-planning is not as good as it should be because we have such a small staff.
As you know, Caroline.
As you know, you're one of them. So, yeah, I guess
it can be. I think that I was struck by, as we were thinking about it, I do think that there is slightly less long days in the sun for us because there's more people. Hopefully that kind of work is sort of spread out a little bit more. But David still drives the truck full of all the equipment everywhere, and you know, he's still helping build the stage, and Lorenzo helps build the stage. When he's here, Lorenzo's going somewhere. This is very exciting.
I gotta charge my phone.
Oh no! I was gonna say, we can see you. Don't go do anything.
Go, Lou.
Don't go to the loo.
Excuse me, I gotta go.
It could happen. So I think that there's definitely the feeling now of a lot. I remember, when we first started nights at like 4 a.m, and I was sewing costumes for the next day and that kind of thing. And so I think I know there are still people sewing costumes at 4 a.m. the day before, but it's not me now. So I guess that's good. We have more people helping, which makes such a huge difference.
But it's an interesting progression because, we started out as a bunch of mates putting on theatre together. So, our first company was made out of friends and close acquaintances. And we would rely on each other a lot to get stuff done. So David Nathan Schwartz, I don't know if you remember David, don't you, Lorenzo?
Yeah.
David and Danny Campbell, they'd come out to the house and we'd be screwing sets together. We'd drink a lot of beer while we were doing it. So we'd all build stuff together and we'd pull it apart together. And, I'd be out putting stuff together right up until it was supposed to be a rehearsal. And I would realize I hadn't taken a break since 10 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, I'm sorry, before we do any acting, I need 30 minutes and a coffee or something before we can go on. It's interesting how, obviously, as you become more of an institution that starts to disappear, and you can't rely on actors to be doing stuff, and that's wrong. At a certain, as an ensemble that's starting out, yes, of course, you're all going to be mucking in and doing stuff, but at a certain point, that's not okay. And I don't know when we really realized that, though. It might have been 1 or 2 seasons too late.
Yeah.
Because, at a certain point, people would be looking at it and go, well, why am I being asked to come in and screw things together and do this and as a volunteer or whatever? And so, it took us a little while to realize that.
I think for me, that summer was, when we were first in Griffith Park, and we did Merry Wives, and Laura Wren built a lot of the set.
Yeah.
And she was our production stage manager, amazing stage manager, amazing theater maker. And it was kind of like that took such a toll. I think we all looked at each other and went, this isn't sustainable. Like, we can't keep doing this. I mean, especially because we've been making theater since the 60s, apparently. So you can only imagine how tired we are.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was that summer where we really were like, oh, wait a minute, we have to actually start thinking about who we need so that the artists can continue to do their best work and not be getting drained, because it just everything got bigger and bigger and bigger. So at a certain point we went, oh no, we have to also get bigger in terms of personnel.
Yeah.
And the audience is growing, so we need more people to make the thing for that audience, kind of thing. So,
and I think the scariest leap is to realize at a certain point you have to move from being a volunteer-based organization to paying people. And that's a really big jump to take, and it's a financial leap, but it's a leap of imagination to think that by doing that, it's going to make itself more sustainable. And it's hard to really visualize that, but it does work. I mean, at least we found out, and I think that was one of the things Sandy said, was that, this will not last if you don't pay people properly. And that was so true.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that. So my next question is, what's usually the process on costume design? These costumes look great. I've been going through the photos and they all look so creative, the textures and the colors. Are the costumes made or purchased secondhand? That was my question, but it sounds like a lot of it's upcycled.
Yeah.
Which one had your favorite set? Either acting in it or directing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we definitely try to reuse costumes. And like most theaters in LA, where, our designers are going to Goodwill and they're trying to really be as thrifty as possible. And I think that for me, because we often have a unit set and we don't have a set that has moving pieces. Mm-hmm. And for the first half of the show, there's no lighting because it's daylight. So lighting doesn't make any impact. So the second half, the lighting cues can kind of come into play. So for us, the costumes are actually this huge part of the storytelling, because sometimes that's really what the audience has to look at that's changing. Like everything else is kind of much more static throughout the play. So I do have one of my favorite costumes of Lorenzo. Would that be okay if I showed that?
Sure. I mean, the other thing about the costumes is because we also do a lot of double or sometimes 3 characters within a show. So I know that when we were doing Two Gentlemen last time, I had like so many changes, and it's like,
that's right. You played the aunt and the dog and the Thurio. Yeah.
And then but there was something else I did. It was was it the aunt in the beginning? Yeah,
you were the aunt in the beginning, and then you were Lord Thurio, and then you were Crab the dog.
Crab the dog. There was something else there.
That's a lot of range, I think, for one actor in one show.
Oh, no, I was the dad also, like oh
my gosh, you were the dad too. Wow. Yeah. Pretty intense. Well, I don't have pictures of those, but I do have you as the cutest little Tranquilo of all time.
Oh,
look how cute he is. And Lorenzo came up with this great gag where at a certain point in the play, did you take his hat off?
No.
Lorenzo took his hat off, and underneath it, he gelled his hair
straight up.
Point. So
That's
the
amazing.
shape of his hair. We had this amazing intern, Scout, was it? And she would be backstage with the blow dryer helping Lorenzo like gel his hair into this point. It was really adorable. It was so cute. David seems to still like to work with beer because that's what he's getting from the kitchen right now.
COVID rules, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh no. Oh no.
Isn't it nice? It's Saturday night and it's 7:50.
Well, that's something that's different. There used to be the time where the cooler was backstage.
Oh no. That is another lesson learned.
Yeah, no, there's no backstage anymore.
No, there's no more cooler backstage.
When you have the cooler of beer, like, oh, we'll just after the show we'll have a toast. Yeah. And then after a couple seasons, it's like, well, once an actor's done, they can have a little bit of a beer. And then it starts to, and then at a certain point you realize, you know, we have to pay people and no alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like those are the rules, because, you know, back in the 60s, anything went, but now. See, I'm really leaning into this joke. Appreciate it.
I do. I like it.
Great. Well, there's some great insight Garry Lennon said in his video about the costumes, about how the costumes are also made specifically because it's outside. So you get like the heat during the daytime, but then it gets really cold at night. And so how does he make it in that way? So we're going to pull up Garry Lennon's video right now.
Great. Cool. Let me do that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Garry Lennon, and I am one of the costume designers for the Shakespeare Company. I have worked with ISC since 2012. My first two shows with them was Winter's Tale and Midsummer Night's Dream in the same summer. It's funny though, because I have never been a fan of Midsummer Night's Dream. That might be heresy. It's just one of those plays that never quite resonated with me. It wasn't until I did a production of Midsummer with Melissa Chalsma at Cal State Northridge that I sort of learned to understand and appreciate and actually really enjoy the play. So when she asked me to do that, it was seemed like a no-brainer, because then it became my favorite Shakespeare. It was just a really great production. So I had really good memories of all my shows with ISC, but that one, since it was the first one, seems to be in my mind. The costuming process at ISC generally is the same from year to year. You know, you have a lot of meetings with Melissa. We have a lot of meetings with the other designers and talk about kind of our approach to it and how we're actually going to achieve it. And then as a costumer, I start kind of doing research, maybe doing sketches, and start kind of gathering costumes from our various sources that we have. But what's really interesting about ISC is the kind of as how the color or how the fit or how the silhouette kind of then affects other schemes within the course of the play. And they just, know how to use a costume. It's just great to see, to give an actor a really great cape, to give David Melville a really great cape, and you'll see him, somewhere off in the rehearsal process. He will spend a good chunk of time, a half hour, trying to figure out how to work that cape and how to make that cape do what it needs to do, which is, as a costume designer, is so gratifying. And they want to know where pockets are. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I lift this up? Can I play with this tie this way? And that's just really fun. That again, it's this level of investment that is really wonderful. The other thing that I'll say is that I think you have to keep in mind that the park itself is a character in the play. The park is a harsh mistress. The reality is you're doing outdoor Shakespeare in California summers. Right now it's 102 degrees right now. But then at night it gets cooler. Some nights get cooler. Some nights are more humid. You might have rain. You have all these different elements, and then you're outside. So the clothes just take a beating. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just the reality of running from the stage house around behind the audience to come through the audience. And you're dealing with grass, and you're dealing with gravel, and you're dealing with dirt, and you're dealing with pavement. And all those things just take a toll on the clothes, which is just a reality you have to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Independent Shakespeare does upcycle, I guess would be the best word for it. We pull from stock. We buy some things new. We make some things new. We buy from thrift stores and kind of, create things together. I think there's probably less costume construction. It's usually more modifying things that you have. You also have to keep in mind that things need to be washable. Things have to be, dry cleaning is not great on a summer schedule like that. So having things that are washable and easily cleaned is a challenge, but it makes the actor's life much easier. And I think overall makes the design kind of easier in that way too. It's just, like I said, the park is an element within this as well. So Backstage Stories, I was trying to think of what Backstage Stories I have. I have to say I can't think of specific incidences, although I will say that one of the things that is my favorite thing about ISC is you go through the rehearsal process, you go through the tech process, and there's always people milling about in the park. So you always have some kind of audience, officially or artificially, watching. But then you go see the show when the summers are in full gear. It's just amazing because, again, that audience just adds another level of participation. And I have never seen audience so invested in the work happening on the stage. And, they're cheering for the heroes and rooting for the lovers and booing the villains. And it's authentic and it's genuine and it's just fun. The audiences are just really, really a beautiful part of that adds to the show. And then also I think it helps the show evolve further once you open it. Getting from the rehearsal room to stage through tech, through dress is one thing. But then the really show comes into its own when you get 2 weeks into the run and you're starting to see the routine and the pattern of the audience reactions. And it's really, really wonderful to see that. So that's one of my favorite things is coming back to see the show after it's open and to check in on it just because it's just so much fun. I will say, I never want to have favorite shows because but I have to say Richard III that we did in 2016 was one of my favorite. It was complicated and weird, and I loved that it was a mix of medieval and punk rock, and it had kind of a punk rock band, and it had rock music kind of infused into it. And I just really, really enjoyed that piece. I just really had a good time with that. But I love all the shows I do with ISC. And someday, when this is all over, I can't wait to at least see them all again and participate all again and support them all in any way I possibly can, but also to hopefully collaborate with them in the future.
Cousin of Buckingham! Since you will buckle fortune on my back to bear her burden, whether I will or no, I must have patience to endure the load. But if black scandal or foul-faced revolt attend the sequel of your imposition, your mere enforcement shall acquittance me from all the impure stains and blots thereof, for God he knows, and you may partly see how far I am from the desire thereof. We see it and will say it! And in saying so, you say the truth. My heart's so full, it scarce has vent for words. My knee will better speak my duty now. God save King Richard, England's worthy king! God save King Richard! God save King Richard! God save King Richard!
That was awesome. Oh my
You got a bit
goodness.
chilly.
You just wear that
You know,
around the
when
house
you got it,
everywhere,
you gotta
David.
flaunt it a little bit, don't you? Look at that. This is the best cape. This cape just sort of flips and flies, and it's great to flip people off with. Oh, I love this cape.
There we go.
It's a lovely cape, and it's from that production that Garry was talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, I managed to get it back from the Smithsonian for one day. Not only that, I'm wearing the new ISC T-shirt.
Oh wow, what a plug. Here we go. Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, this is the 2020 season T-shirt.
The living room edition of the Griffith Park Shakespeare Festival, which we will
Right.
be doing in a few weeks. We'll be doing Romeo and Juliet. And you can pre-order the T-shirts now on the ISC website.
Yes, you can. And if I'm correct, we have a winner of a T-shirt who registered for this event, which we will be discussing later. But yeah, I guess we can go into my next question, which I think it'll be really fun. But what are the weirder things that have happened during the production process? I'm sure there's loads of stories.
What is the weirdest thing?
Yeah, some of the weirder stuff to have happened.
I think one thing that was really odd one year, and it was the year, not this last year where we did 12th night, but before that. And we got there one night, and we're in the park, the old zoo area. A lot of people use that for picnics and family reunions and different events. And so we're kind of used to getting there. And Sabrina, who's our house manager, who many in our audience will know, she sort of goes around and lets people know the play's going to be starting and so on. And one time we got there, and the whole lawn was covered with Vikings. People dressed up as Vikings, and they were doing like axe tossing, Viking games, and we were all kind of like surprised by that. And Sabrina went up and she said, "I know you've obviously gone to a lot of trouble for this event, but I just want to let you know that there's going to be a play starting soon." And they said, "Oh no, we're here for the play," and they were like LARPers, which is live action role play, and they dress up as Vikings and they get together and do Viking games, but they were also coming to watch 12th night. So one night we had Vikings in the audience. It was very cool. So that was I thought that was really fun.
Did that inspire the what was it for Pericles? We also had special nights where people would dress up.
Yes, we had pirate night one night.
We had pirate night one night.
We did, and the pirates and Pericles are on stage for about 45 seconds. But we knew pirates were popular, so we decided to play that one out as long as we could make that happen. So we made one of the nights pirate night, and so many people came dressed up as pirates. And then the pirates came on stage, and they all went "Arr!" and the whole audience went "Arr!" And it was like this massive cheer for these pirates who really are not a huge part. They're really just there to carry Marina off, and that's it. They don't have much else to do. But that night, the pirates practically got an ovation because the audience was so excited to have pirate nights.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
We've never kept a record of all the lines have been spoken whenever there's a helicopter or a plane or.
Oh yeah.
We could write a book about that.
We could, and in Barnstable we were right by the was it the Children's Hospital? Is that one?
Yeah.
And so they had a helipad for medical helicopters.
Mhm.
And of course that means there's a child who's getting medical care. So one supports that helicopter, you are happy that the child is getting medical care, but sometimes they sit on the helipad for 10 minutes. And so you would not be able to talk. And so we always had to come up with really elaborate helicopter gags to acknowledge that the characters had to somehow acknowledge the I think in The Tempest one year, you guys were down here, we're down here, come pick us up and everything. But and then in Griffith Park, though, we have more coyotes than we do helicopters, really. I love coyote nights.
Very first performance, right before showtime in Barnstable Park, I don't know if you remember this, Lorenzo, there was a skunk trapped on the stage, and it started spraying everywhere. And we're like, oh my God. We had to get, park fellow to come and...
there was the ASPCA.
Put it in a box and take it away. And
very humanely. The skunk was treated very humanely.
But it was one of those moments what are we getting into? Is it going to be this every single time? But, that was the only time we've ever had to deal with a skunk. Laura, our stage manager for many years, would delight in regaling me with stories about the diamondbacks that she would find basking on the tarpaulins that we would place backstage.
Or the rattlesnakes? You mean rattlesnakes? Oh, God.
So she'd come back and find these rattlesnakes.
No.
And I think that was particularly after there'd been a fire in the park, so that all of the wildlife had sort of moved more down into the sort of populated areas. We don't really find them so much anymore.
That's horrifying. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Rattlesnakes in your dressing room.
That's exciting. Sounds like a fun time.
But we do in Griffith Park, we get a lot of coyotes. We see deer a lot, raccoons. People started to bring, because technically you really aren't supposed to bring animals to watch the show with you because it's a group of people. And so the park has asked that everyone keep their pets at home. But people do come and sometimes they'll bring their dog. A couple years ago, someone brought their pet goat. I've seen pet rabbits. Somebody brought their pet kittens. So there were 2 kittens in the show, which I thought was funny. And I did find, when I was looking for pictures, if I can find this lovely visitor came. The horse.
So
Isn't that
we had horses, yeah.
Yeah, because it's so people that are riding in the park will sometimes ride, and sometimes you'll look out and you'll see them just on their horses watching for a little bit as they are taking a break from riding, and then they go off to ride somewhere.
One of my favorite shows was Love's Labour's Lost, and we did this bit where all the men in the show were supposed to go hunting or something. So we had them sort of gallop off the stage, go, and they would sort of dive off the stage and run down the aisle, pretending they're on horseback, like Monty Python, almost with the coconuts. And they went running up to the back of the park, and they met all these people who've been out on a hack. With their horses, horses were looking at them like they were crazy.
Why are you doing that? That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was one of my favorite shows. And there was another night. Do you remember we started our act because we kind of set this thing up where personal closeness was forbidden. So
in Love's Labour's
Lost. So part of the story is that men and women are not really supposed to be together. So so Richard, who was playing the policeman character, would go around and write tickets to the audience, because they would make sure that they would sit further apart and stuff. And sometimes they would actually pay these tickets. But we had Jaconetta. Mary was playing Jaconetta, and Andre was playing Don Armado, who becomes obsessed with Jaconetta. And so we'd start part 2 with Richard suddenly catching them together and then chasing them through the audience, and Mary would be wearing nothing but a sheet and Andre just had like something that looked like a diaper. I don't know. But he would insist on sort of pulling it down so you could see his arse crack a little bit. And after the show one night, somebody came up to me and says, I want to complain. I mean, it's one thing to put us through. I mean, it's a good show and everything, but we do not need to see that much of Andre's buttocks. And I said, I thank you so much for letting me know. I'll explain that to the director. And you are the director!
Oh my goodness.
Oh dear.
Obviously read the program.
Oh.
Well, I think those tickets to get people to sit farther apart would work in this case during COVID.
Yes, that's a good point. We might need to we may need to
social distance.
Bring that back.
There was one other strange creatures that used to visit us at the park. I'm trying to think what year it was, and I can't. It was a few years ago. Some people in the audience will know what year it was because they do it. But when Pokemon Go came out, the old zoo was made a
spawn site or something.
Like a gym or a place where you could go and catch Pokemon, and they had a picture of our stage. And so we would see all these people, and there was one night we're like, there's so many people coming to the show tonight. This is amazing. There's like all these young people coming to see Shakespeare, isn't it? And then we realized they were all there to catch Pokemon. Not everybody, but there were all these people coming to catch Pokemon. And so I did find this one that was Brandon. So this was the year we did Richard III. So Brandon was caught a Pokemon backstage. So you can see the little Pokemon that was there.
Aww.
So we had that summer we had a lot of Pokemon activity backstage and on stage.
That was a weird moment in humankind, wasn't it?
That is strange. It kind of
all these people walking around.
Yeah.
Make all us nerds.
That was the year also I was being carried in the bier as Henry VI. He was, and he's dead, and they're carrying me, and then all of a sudden I sneeze.
You sneezed?
I sneezed. I remember it was like, and Mary was Lady Anne, and she was mourning, and then she just she started laughing. She turned it into crying. But it was because
remember that time that scene. I was using this dress sword and I was bashing this spear away with it. And what I didn't realize I was putting all these little notches in it. And when I would put it back in my scabbard, I'd sort of run the sword up my thumb so I could, not have to look what I was doing. And this one night, this sort of little divot caught my thumb and just sliced the whole thing open.
Oh.
So there was just blood all over the stage. Everyone would come on stage like, what's going on?
So much blood. You got down on a beat.
I've been stung several times during a performance. Once was as Leontes.
Mm-hmm.
Right before I had to scream. So it was like, ah! And then the second time was as Bottom, when Bottom's got all these multiple deaths, and obviously I played that up as much as possible. So I did the final triumphant last death and fell down and then was promptly stung by a bee and went, ow, and came back to life again. I felt so stupid that this last sort of cry was actually real and sort of really a little bit less muted than the others, but I felt I had to explain to the audience when it just happened, and nobody understood. So no, I was just stung by a bee. All right, I'm gonna go be dead again.
Oh my goodness,
that's hilarious. Great. I think this is a good moment to show Erwin Tuazon's video. He's been with ISC a very long time and was talking about just like how the production process has come from early days to now. So
here we go with Erwin.
Hi, my name is Irwin Swanson, and I I have worked with the Independent Shakespeare Company since 2007. My first production with them was Richard II, and I remember auditioning for Independent Shakespeare Company. I saw the notice in Backstage West, and I had just bombed the previous audition. I don't remember who, but I saw it and I said, let's just see what happens. And I remember it was in a small theater somewhere in West Hollywood. Joe Culleton was auditioning, and I did my Romeo monologue, and he was so warm and supporting, and he taught me the first bits of verse speaking I ever learned, and he challenged me to do it, and I did okay, but he was just so amazing and so supportive. And then I met Melissa at the callback, and it was the same with her, and they just took me in, and I had a great first summer in 2007. It was my first year in Los Angeles. I just graduated college, and I remember those days you got to the park sometime maybe after lunch. You helped set up, you built things, and you didn't leave until after we wrapped up at 11 or sometimes midnight or even later. And it's still like that now, especially for someone like David. But it was those formative years, at least for me, that was something I remember really fondly. And now we're in Griffith Park, and it's so amazing, it's so grand. The last production I did in Griffith Park was Much Ado About Nothing in 2015, and just to imagine the change from performing for an audience of 70 people and being really excited when there's 200 people at Barnesville Park to performing for almost 3,000 when we did Midsummer Night's Dream in 2012 or so. It's really amazing to see how much it's grown, and the different types of people that come to the festival. My favorite thing is whenever I see some young Filipino kid or young Asian kid come up to me specifically and wanting to meet me. It makes me feel like it instills that reason of why I want to perform for other people, to represent other people that may look like me or feel like they can be inspired by someone that looks like me. Backstage stories, I don't necessarily have anything in particular, but I do remember that in Barnesville Park, we have built this sort of underground clubhouse right underneath the stage. That, if I remember correctly, had the ability to go through the trap door in the bottom of the stage, and it became something of a really cool thing that we would just all hang out in afterwards. And I remember, I think David said they found someone sleeping there one night, but it was really cool. Stuff like that I can't pinpoint one exact thing, but I remember the camaraderie, and I remember the family, and that was always what was most special about everything.
Aww. Oh, so cool. See those pictures of Erwin when he first started, like little baby Erwin. Now he's got kids, just bought a house.
Oh my God.
My goodness.
Oh, little baby face.
Goodness. That's amazing to think about that. That's one of the things I think is the most, that I love so much is, we've talked about Mary a couple times. Her picture came up a few times. She was in Richard III most recently. But we've known Mary, I think she was still in college, and she came and volunteered. And then to watch somebody over all those years, and you really create these really deep relationships with each other as people. And you also create these wonderful relationships with each other as artists. And it's such a gift, I think, to be in a community of artists where there's so many of us that really do know each other so well and have cheered each other on and challenged each other, sometimes fought and then made up. And that we have such a rich history of collaboration. I think that is such a rare, it's such a rare gift to have that over so many years, since the 60s.
Yeah, we've met Mary when she was 21 or something,
yeah.
and so she was one of Danny Cole's students.
Yeah.
And she came to volunteer at Two Gents, and then she was a fairy in Midsummer Night's Dream, and then she was playing leads.
Can I tell a quick story
she's one
about
of the pinch tones?
Can I tell a quick story about Mary as a fairy?
Mm-hmm.
So she was playing Peace Blossom the very first time we did Midsummer Night's Dream in the Barnstable Park. And she is so charming. She's such a wonderful performer, and she would love to kind of interact with the audience, and she was so great in that role. And there was this little boy, he was about 5, and he kept coming back to the show. And the mother said, I keep trying to get him to do something else, but he just won't. He's got to come see the play. And this little boy loved Peace Blossom, and he invited Mary for a play date. He asked Peace Blossom to come over for a play date, and it was so sweet. And then flash forward, so every night there was Midsummer, there was this little boy and his mom she's like, I liked the show, but I'm really good. I don't need to see it again. But they came probably 10 times. And as it turns out, he grew up very near to the studio where our rehearsal space is, and then his sister ended up going to school with our daughter, so weird and random. And now the little boy who liked Mary so much is in college. So maybe not quite in college, but it's just such an amazing thing to have those kind of connections. And can I tell one last little quick story? I know we're close to time, but Kalyan Ung, who many of our audience will recognize, she's been, she was Queen Margaret in those pictures of Richard III, and we've done so much work with her. And we had cast her in a role that she had turned down one year in Love's Labor's Lost. Actually, I think she was going to be.
She turned us down?
She did turn us down, but it all worked out because then we had the most wonderful cast. Okay. No, it all as always things worked out, and then we ended up with a beautiful cast that was the perfect cast, which happens so often. But when we were doing 12th Night the first time that Garry designed, so we've seen some pictures from that. She came in and auditioned for Viola, and I really wanted to work with her. And I guess I must have texted her the offer. Why did I text her an offer? I thought strange. That's not professional. But I actually phrased it like, do you want to get engaged to ISC? And that's kind of what I look at it like when we're with artists. I always feel like my goal is always to create long-term relationships. I never think, I just want to have that person in one show, and then it doesn't always work out that way. That things don't always align. But every time we're hiring someone, or every time we're meeting an artist or a designer, I'm thinking, gosh, I hope this is somebody that we're together for a long, long time. So, Carolina, you're now married to ISC.
I am.
Okay with
I
you.
was just thinking how I volunteered this past December, and then I got this job, so it was pretty cool. Great. So since we are over time, I just want to ask one last question. It's super quick. But what do you miss most about the production process this year? And what's different about the production process for Romeo and Juliet, which is coming up?
Whoa, so much is different. Lorenzo, what do you miss about not doing live theater right now and not being in the festival? I'm curious.
Oh, God. I would have to say the audience. I mean, the audiences at ISC are so great. I mean, it's just so many. And then you get to meet so many of our audiences because we go out and talk to them, and and that part of it is also the thing that Sandy was mentioning about how diverse the audience is, but also you get all these people that I mean that it's the first time that they come and see Shakespeare sometimes, and they're always like, oh my God, I'm amazed. I never thought, I didn't want to come, and my girlfriend dragged me, and this was great, and they had such a great time, and so that part of it, that and then also, you have kids that have been coming for such a long time, and they tell you, and they keep a score of all the plays that they've seen and what they've seen you in, and they talk to you about it. So I mean that is the big part that I miss.
I think what I miss is every once in a while, especially once everything's up and running, before the show, I can just go up and I can sit at Jenny's station, which is sort of halfway up in the
Jenny's our stage manager.
By the light board, and just watch people come and put their blankets down and meet their friends and just see, just how happy the whole thing makes everyone. It's just so nice. Especially if we've got a good pre-show soundtrack playing, sometimes it can just feel like a movie or something, and you just see these people and, they're out for a good time and everyone's just there to, there's this, well, I was always amazed by how the festivals kind of grew, but, we grew the artistic side of it, but the audience grew their side of it, and they kind of created their own rules, which are very sort of, I don't know what the best way to describe it. I mean, it's almost like, going to church or something like that, but it's that everyone just got to be nice to each other and share and just turn up with your best attitude and love your neighbor and all that kind of stuff. And you just see it. You can just witness it sitting back there. And that's one of the things that I love most about it, is to sit back and just watch the audience and feel good that I had a small part in bringing all that together with Melissa.
Well, with so many people. But I think that's true when you see people helping each other up the hill, because as we all know, it's a very long bit of a hike up the hill, and people helping each other with their stuff or sharing their blanket. If somebody didn't bring a blanket, I've seen a lot of people oh no, just come sit with us. We have plenty of room, or sharing food, and it's really nice.
All the stuff we can't do.
I guess
now.
that's true. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. The thing I miss is I just miss being in a room. I really miss being in a room with artists and imagining what a play can be and kind of discovering that play. Because I think no matter how many times we do a show, whatever that curious group of people that comes together, it's totally different. And, the play ends up brand new to me. And I think I miss so much just being with people. And I think when we're thinking about Romeo and Juliet, I know you'd asked that, is there's two things, right? The audience and being together with artists. Those are the two things we miss so much, but we can't do it. So it's kind of trying to figure out, how do you make it live? How can we have those live elements? So we've been thinking, there'll be certain sequences that are going to be live streamed, that will be happening live for an audience. And we're creating ways for the audience to interact. At one point, an audience member can call in and ask the friar for advice. And, there will be these different kind of ways of interacting live, on social media. If you follow certain characters on Twitter, on Instagram, they'll be posting throughout the performance as their characters to give you sort of extra parts of the story. And then we have recorded elements. So that's a whole weird thing too, because in this context of when you're recording, if we're going to go in and record a scene with, Juliet and Romeo, we have to, in advance of that, everyone has to be tested. We have to have all kinds of protocols in place. When we're in the space, we're going to need to be far apart. We're going to need to be, so it changes the dynamic so much. But I am really excited that we're going to get a chance to do a show for everybody this summer. Romeo and Juliet is a beautiful play. I think it's a beautiful play to do now in these times. And I'm really excited to sort of see what it becomes, both in the creation of it, but then also what it's like doing it live, and how those live weird interactions happen. Because the audience is this, as Lorenzo says, it's such a big part of the storytelling for us in the park. Normally the audience really impacts the performances, and they really want to be involved. So hopefully we can recreate some of that magic in a digital landscape.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. Well, this is
the t-shirt's really cool.
And the t-shirt is really cool.
Oh yeah, the t-shirt is really cool. Which is great, because now we're getting to the end of our great talk. I really feel like I learned more about the festival, hearing about it from so many people, but especially right now. So I'm excited to see what happens with Romeo and Juliet, and I'm excited for next year.
Yeah, it'll be fun to do that, to get back to it. So I'm just putting up. So if you want to register to come see Romeo and Juliet, well, come see it. Come see it in your living room. You can go to the website and you can register. And then what happens when you register is you get a lot of this extra information about how to sign, how to log in, to how to follow people on Twitter, how to follow the characters on Instagram. You can sign up for text alerts from Prince Aeschylus. So throughout the production, you'll be getting texts, like warning texts or whatever the Prince Aeschylus thinks he needs to tell the citizens of Verona. You'll kind of become a citizen and get those text alerts, but you have to sign up in advance to be able to do that. So you can go to
Aeschylus's
register. What, Lorenzo?
You're going to be getting Aeschylus's tweets?
There's a lot of
Those
characters.
will be his texts. You can follow Mercutio on Twitter. You can get the text messages from the prince. You can follow Paris on Instagram. Benvolio in our iteration is a photographer, and you can visit her website. And the apothecary has a Facebook shop where he posts poetry and potions. So you'll get like this real sort of hopefully fun three-dimensional way of looking at the play.
And Friar Lawrence is on Tinder.
No,
Oh my goodness.
he's not on Tinder.
What is Tinder?
Do not have. Oh, everybody.
Is that one of your kids' things? He's on
Swipe,
Tinder.
he's mine.
He's on Grindr. Sorry.
Maybe on both of those things.
He's Catholic in his tastes.
Oh. This is getting bad. David, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for David.
And just to remind everybody, we have new dates for Romeo and Juliet. We needed to postpone the release of the production, not for health reasons, but to make sure that it's a quality production for everybody. So our new dates are September 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th at 7 p.m. It'll be live streamed.
There we go. Beautiful. And there's Nikhil and Bukola who are playing Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. That's
So
great.
feel free to follow us on all of our social media, including Facebook and Instagram. You're watching this on Facebook, but Independent Shakespeare Company and Instagram at Indie Shakes, as well as follow our Twitter. We'll be updating everybody with those tweets from our great characters in Romeo and Juliet. You can also sign up to be a part of the Roustabouts. The Roustabouts is is for an ISC fan who believes that dynamic and inclusive theater should be accessible to everyone. And they want to level up their support of ISC by contributing on a regular basis. So that could be anything from $1, $2, $10 a month. So if you want to learn more about the Roustabouts and how to get involved, especially if you love ISC and you are young and broke like me, you can go ahead and check it out there. You can also text to give, which I think Melissa's going to bring up right now. Yes, so you can text to donate if you feel like anytime you're thinking of giving $5 or $10. You can text ISCLA to 44321. Follow our podcast. Our podcast is available everywhere now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, really anywhere you get your podcasts. Art Break. What else? Oh yes, the winner of the t-shirt giveaway, which I haven't sent an email to, so we're doing it today. But it's Eileen Savage. She's
been coming for so long.
Oh,
That's amazing.
T-shirt.
Yeah, this very picture.
Not this one. No, not this one. No, you got a
Oh man, and the t-shirt.
This one is extra.
Oh,
As Melissa said, you can pre-order the t-shirts at iscla.org. Great. I think that's about it as far as what I need to say. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to all of our special guests, Sanford, Natalie, Garry, and Erwin, for lending their time. It's nice to meet you all virtually and not in person, but one day soon.
one day soon.
And thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you for agreeing to be on this live stream with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. This is great. I'm excited to see you all during Romeo and Juliet.
Give me the finger.
Oh, dear.
Great.
They
Well,
could go on all night, but we won't let them do that. So thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Carolina.
Thank you, Carolina.
So lovely. Thank
You
you.
did a great job. I love the
Thank you.
microphone. Is that a Shure 55?
what'd you say?
Your microphone.
Oh.
He loves your
You
microphone.
have a very,
Oh, hi.
it's a little blue. Oh, okay.
She's the Samsung.
Very
I
nice.
got it when I was like 12, and now I have it, and that's what I've been making podcasts with. But thank you for hiring me. I really love it here. I'm having a great time meeting all of the audience members online and getting to know you all. I feel like more a part of the family for sure.
That's great. I always love to tell the story about Carolina. She started work, and I think about 8 days later, we had to start working from home. So it's so impressive because you just threw yourself in and made yourself indispensable. And I'm so grateful that you joined the team because you've made everything so much better. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll see you guys soon. Well, virtually.
We'll see you all virtually soon.
Bye.
Love you all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.